Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish.
What else you got? Hit me with more questions.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, Poirier McGregor.
I mean, as an analyst, as a UFC analyst, or as a fan, I mean, I've been to many Conor matches in New York and in Vegas. I was there when he knocked out Jose Aldo.
Really?
Yeah, it was incredible. And
Jealous.
I like the guy. I like his spirit. I like his, I'm disappointed with him and the choices he's made and how he's handled his career. But I like the fact that he's getting back in there and taking these tough fights. I mean, rematches, very difficult, and coming back from a loss. So public humiliation, personal disappointment. You put it out on a world stage. You got your ass kicked, and now you're going to come back and fight that same dude. I mean, this is like a Shakespearean thing where it's, hey, you give it up for Poirier to take the fight for the same reason.
Yeah.
Like he got knocked out and humiliated the first time. Now in that second fight, Conor rocked him in that first round. Bad.
Yeah.
Like he shook him and he was like, I was not well, put it that way. So if not for these devastating leg kicks and also Conor's cardio, which is, it was shit when he was in his prime.
Yeah.
And, the further you go deep with Conor, the better it is for you. I would imagine Conor might think to take Poirier to the ground. I mean, Conor has a good ground game.
But Poirier's a beast on the ground.
He's gotten better. I mean, you saw what Khabib did to him, but I mean, he does that to everyone.
But I was going to say, like, it's so difficult for these guys because whoever wins will still know that everyone is thinking that Khabib's really the champion in that division.
Yeah, but life goes on and out of sight, out of mind. And, there's a new generation of people watching this, and there's nothing like winning. I mean, winning can solve all things. So what is Conor going to do coming forward? I mean, he cannot just stalk and be heavy on that front foot in the same way. I think we're going to see bouncing Conor. He's going to be more like Machida or Wonder Boy. I think he's going to be more cautious about closing distance. When he does, he's going to come with combinations, and he's going to come with ferocity, trying to set up that straight left, the Celtic cross or whatever it is. And I think he's got to be more wary of playing defense. He's got to respect Dustin's flurries, his power, and his fight IQ, which is, he's proven it. So getting knocked out, getting beaten in the way that he was in that second fight, if nothing else, you learn respect. And so now that's going to inform his entire training camp. And he's coming in with some fire that I think he probably lacked in that second fight.
And he has to do it in 3 rounds because Poirier's, his aerobic ability is pretty good. Do you remember the 5th round of Max Holloway versus Poirier?
Oh, yeah. Well,
when Poirier walks up and points to the ground, he's like, let's go to war. And
he's definitely a warrior. Poirier is a complete stud.
Yeah, and he is.
If you're going to get into a striking match with him, he's going to touch you and he's going to connect. His jab, his combinations, his kicks, and you're going to be in a brutal war. And the thing about Conor is he doesn't really take damage well. He has a good chin. He hasn't been knocked out. Really, the last fight was the worst damage he's ever taken from a punch.
Yeah.
He gets rocked, but he does if he starts to lose a fight, he's losing the fight. Conor rarely will come back. A lot of the stuff he did was
that's a good point.
He's a front runner. He comes with a unorthodox style. He connects. Conor has power. No one denies that, and that's how he wins. He wins by, he jumps out of the starting blocks. It's just when you're fighting guys that are this good, this dedicated, this solid, you can't just expect to blitzkrieg them. You have to have plan B.
This is true. So, okay. So if you had to make a prediction.
I predict that Conor will find a way to get it done. I think that he has enough of that animal instinct, that competitive streak. I think he'll come up with a game plan that will not allow Dustin to do what he did last fight. And I think he'll have success, and I think he'll get takedowns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gilbert Burns, Wonder Boy.
I mean, both names carry some respect with it, but I think Gilbert Burns is, you talk about a guy in his prime, I think this guy is a problem, a real problem for everyone. And a lot of people do not want to fight this guy. And I don't think he's going to suffer from some spinning back kick from Wonder Boy. I think he knows Wonder Boy's game, and I don't think he fears him. I think he's gonna blow right through Wonder Boy, to be honest.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Tai Tuivasa and Greg Hardy.
I think Greg Hardy is good, but I remember his last fight, he got hit. Like he's a guy with such massive power, but if you can get past that initial burst of power, he's not that great of a fighter, and he's not even that experienced. And also, I don't think he has the fighting spirit. Meanwhile, Tuivasa, he's big, he's fat, but him and all those Samoan type Maori dudes, they definitely have the fighting spirit. I mean, the Hawaiians, all of those guys, they are incredible. Like, there's zombies in there. So even if Greg Hardy connects, Tuivasa's coming forward, and he's going to be putting that weight on you. And I don't think Greg wants that. I don't think he mentally wants that. So unless he gets some flash knockdown early, it's Tai Tuivasa is going to take that.
Yeah. Okay. And then obviously the ladies. I don't know if you know. Do you know enough about those two?
Only a little bit. I need to see a picture.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. Let me look this up. I need to judge their bodies with a laser pointer.
Okay.
I think I know that the one is a jiu-jitsu expert, and the other is, one of these Russian monsters that there's so many good Russian fighters. It's so crazy.
I know. It's crazy.
I mean, I'm going to be loving it. There's probably other good fights on the undercard too, because this is a massive one.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Bringing up UFC.com. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's number 4 versus number 5. I mean, this could go either way, and the odds have it as tight as can be. I think Aldana, I'm going to go with her though, but I like her weapons and her submission ability. But God, look at Sean O'Malley's hair. Jesus,
that's amazing.
What a fucking joke. He's doing face tats and all that. Oh no. Oh, Carlos Condit is fighting. Carlos Condit's fighting on the prelims.
Is he?
Against Max Griffin, who's a tough out. He's actually the underdog. Carlos Condit is.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, this is a hell of a card.
Yeah, it looks good. Dan was telling me about it yesterday, saying it looks one of the best so far.
Oh God.
They've had a tough time under COVID as well.
What, the UFC?
Yeah, just he's done amazingly well. But do you remember when they had to hit a certain amount of fights, otherwise he would get $0 from ESPN?
Who are we talking about?
Dana White.
Oh, Dana White.
When COVID,
I mean, he moved mountains to get fights made. I mean, he's renting out islands, and he's going all around the world, and he's utilizing Florida or Texas and all their lax laws about it all. So credit to him. Good job, Dana.
Yes, indeedy. Just going to ask you a few quick fires.
Okay.
That's okay.
Hit me.
They don't have to be that quick answered, but up to you. Your university, did you go to Berkeley or the other one that I can't remember?
Yeah, I went to a couple. I went to Berkeley for a year, and then I transferred to UCLA. So it was a big deal at the time because looking back, it's kind of quaint, but what college you got into spoke about your class and your worth, and it came with a lot of social weight to it. And that is very real. I felt it every time someone said, where are you going to school? I'm going to Berkeley. I'm going to UCLA. Like, people are like, oh shit. But that's basically the most worth it gives, college. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration. It is useful, and you can get a lot out of it if you actually take the right classes and are interested in a topic. But it has just as much worth socially as it does academically, and it costs a lot of money. So I'm sure there's other ways to spend your years from 18 to 23 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you went there, they were well known. Sort of liberal, not liberal, sort of far left. No, I don't know. They were probably further left than various other universities. Do you think when you went, which I guess would have been a couple of decades ago or so, was it? Did you see any of the sort of stuff we're seeing now starting to come through, or?
It was there. It was just under wraps. It wasn't as in your face. It wasn't as mainstreamed.
Right.
For universities in California, there's going to be a basic general liberal vibe, especially Berkeley. But LA is basically the same thing, and you can sort of avoid it. I think the fact that life has been politicized and all of this crusading and activism has become the meaning of people's lives, and that has spilled out everywhere, and it's incredibly obnoxious. But back in the day, people weren't obsessed with that. There was other things. People who liked music would talk about music. People who liked sports would talk about sports. It wasn't, where do you stand on the genocide of the Native Americans? Or, it was just like, chill out, people. Like, there's other things happening.
And then I was also going to ask you about O.J. Simpson.
Oh yeah, my friend.
I think you were attending O.J. Simpson's trial.
I'd like to attend his funeral, but yeah, I went to his trial. Had a family member who was working for the city as a lawyer, and he got me into the closing arguments of the OJ case, and I made eye contact with OJ. I was like 3 rows back, and it was very weird and surreal. And there was one camera up in the corner, and it would move around like slowly, like Big Brother. And we knew that millions of people were watching that. I mean, this is before the internet, so it was the viral thing. And to make it even more crazy and viral, I was sitting next to Richard Dreyfuss, the actor. And so the camera was locked in on me and Richard Dreyfuss. It would pan over to us. And the AP photographers, they were taking pics of us. And he was there studying for a role. And little guy. And I'm sitting next to him just randomly. And it's like such an LA moment to be like, yeah, I'm at the OJ case with some famous actor. But what it ended up doing was it put me on the news that night. And I recorded it on VHS. And eventually it made its way to YouTube because I had to convert it and all this crazy process. But yeah, it's fun to have that clip of me because I remember it very well.
You've done quite a few pieces on OJ, haven't you, over the years? Brought him in here and there.
When he got released, I did a whole thing, and I sort of rehashed the case and why it's crazy, and also it's connected to everything else. So it's not just that it's black crime. If you want to talk about justice system and injustice in our country, you should talk about O.J. Simpson. But there's also other things that are pertinent about it, namely 43% of blacks think he's innocent today.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, it's bad. And at the time, clearly the 10 blacks on that jury thought he was innocent. And it was all based off racism. I mean, the whole thing is racial tribalism. And it was played so cynically by the defense team. And also other offshoots that are of interest to me. Barry Scheck, who was one of the lawyers for OJ, he started a thing called the Innocence Project. And that project is dedicated to getting guilty black murderers and rapists out of prison and declare them to be innocent. So it's, just ludicrous next level evil shit going on. And not to mention Bob Kardashian and his daughter, a little girl named Kim Kardashian with a fat ass. You might have heard of her. She's trying to do the same thing, get people out of prison. And race has everything to do with it. So race is a monkey wrench that you throw into a moral system. And for some people, namely people on the left and black people, the second you throw that monkey wrench into a moral question, everything's destroyed. There is no morality. Whereas there are white people and conservatives, and there are studies that prove this, that if you throw race into a moral question, it doesn't change anything.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen
They have
that.
principles.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was Tim Pool. Well, I actually heard that on bizarrely. But yeah.
It was a study, but Sargon talked about it. Many people have talked about it, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've done some amazing work just because I think the stuff that you do is so like engaging. Like you could just watch it for the I don't know how to describe it, like the cinematography type, like the visuals. You could just watch it for that, but also like the information that you kind of merge in with it. So we obviously have do you call them the Alliterati?
Yes, the Alliterati show.
Yeah. And so is it Kevin
Cooper is one.
Yeah.
Rodney Reed.
Yeah.
I mean, Julius Jones, Purvis Payne.
There's a pattern there, man. You need to call the FBI.
It's actually, very, very strange. I don't know if that's a glitch in the Matrix, but
it's
weird.
A simulation.
Also, just the names of African Americans is weird. Just period. I could just do a entire segment on that, but yeah, it's it's like living in this decade is as if someone placed a bet and said, you know how people are guilty about slavery? You know how they have white guilt? I wonder how far we could push that. Like as a thought experiment, what can we do to leverage their white guilt? You think we can get a murderer out of prison?
Yeah.
And we've seen that. It's a Black Mirror episode, and it's been playing out in front of our face. And people are leaning into that white guilt, and they're using it to try to crowbar some power out of the system. And it's disgusting.
Who does it benefit, though? I mean, we have white people in America, white powerful people, saying like, yeah, I agree, white people are trash, right, basically.
Because they're on some sort of a personal crusade to garner social points and to have a happy wife and to say things that sound nice. So you can't, like, people take crap for being the adult, for being the disciplinarian, for being the cop or the guy who has to come in and say, you know what, this is bullshit. You know, I'm not going to dedicate my life to saying things that's going to sound nice all the time. You know, like my last video I did was about a 14-year-old girl that got stabbed to death, got stabbed over 25 times and choked out by some random black guy in Fargo. And now,
that was a good one.
Thank you. But does that make people like me? Did I do that video because I want people to have a good feeling about me? No. I did that video. It's ugly as hell. It's a terrible story.
Yeah.
Someone has to talk about it. Now, most of these powerful white people, like you say, or corporate whites or political whites, they're not engaged in the project of talking about things that are important. They're more concerned about how are they going to look in any given situation. And so, like, if I'm on a first date, what is my goal? My goal is to appear likable, to have fun. So on that first date, am I going to bring up the rape stats of South Africa and go into depth about how atrocious it is? No, I'm not. Does that mean I don't care about the rape stats in South Africa? No, but it means in that scenario, my goal is not to discuss rape because it's counter to my other goal, which is to appear likable and to have the woman across from me not hate me and want to have sex with me. So that's what you're seeing. You're seeing people are playing different games and their priorities are completely different. They will rarely admit it, though. That's the one thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure how beneficial it is to the up and coming humans of our time. But
oh no, we got problems.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, hold on. Sorry, the phone was going off. How many channels? Because obviously we had atheism. We had AIU, and then we had AIU 1 or 2, and then Resurrection.
Yeah.
So how many channels did you have?
They all got banned. I had AIU, then I had AIU 2, I had AIU 3, I had AIU Resurrection, and they all got banned, except for my music video channel, which is Tracey Remix, where I make music videos and post them up, and it's got 30,000 subs now, and I'm quite proud of the work I've done on there, and that's a whole different side of my personality that I'm quite fond of.
You make some amazing remixes.
Oh, thank you.
Like, what is it that you call the song? I think, do you call it like a Band of Funerals or something? No, Band of Horses Funeral and something else, like Funeral in Heaven?
Right. It's a nice little remix.
That's an amazing, amazing remix. which obviously you put in your videos as well.
I remember the decision to do that. Including your musical taste in anything you do is questionable. It's a risk, because obviously not everyone's going to like all the stuff you like.
Yeah.
So, if you're on a car trip and you're like, hey, we're going to play my CD that I cobbled together, that's not going to go over well. Or, so I was like a little bit hesitant to include music, but then at some point I just said I stopped caring. I said, I'm going to do what I want, and I am the dictator of my little channel. And if enough people like it, so be it. If you don't like it, I wish you well. And that's how you have to do it. You cannot let the audience steer the ship. You have to be in control.
Oh, I think it's a good decision, because you're like me, you've got a really eclectic taste in music, and you like what you like the sound of, because you like a lot of rap and stuff like that as well, don't you?
So, I was raised with hip hop and I like that, but I'm always looking for new stuff. I have to go through a ton of really bad songs to find one that I like, but that's the grind. You got to do that. Otherwise you're just going to get top 40 bullshit. Or you'll just rely on, like, hey, the 300 songs I knew from my youth, I'll just stick with those. And that to me is a little bit not fun. And so, like, there's a new outro I'm going to do. My next one, it's Slipknot and Gnarls Barkley, and it's great. And I never heard. I'm not a Slipknot guy, but I like the song. It's a good sound.
Sounds like it should be good. I remember you telling a story. How long would that have been? A couple of years ago, about your uncle in South Africa.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think specifically, he's, first of all, a really accomplished guy. He's like a doctor of music. I don't even know what official title it is, but he has a master's. He went to Oxford. He was always a smart dude, but he dedicated his life to African music. Sort of picked up where my grandfather left off. He runs and operated the International Library of African Music. I think he taught at Rhodes University. So quite a guy, but he got home invaded, and it's happened a few times where some blacks would come in, Africans, and they beat on him and his wife and tied him up and robbed him. And this was a guy they had helped out. This was like a friend of the family, a guy they had given shelter to and helped him get set up with school. And, but in the eyes of this black guy, it was like, wait a minute, this guy has money, so I'm just going to take what he has because I don't have the money. So I'll take his money. It was just some really low-level idiotic shit. And, home invasions and attacks and violence from Africans, it's just a normal occurrence down there. It's an everyday thing. That's why there's gated communities. That's why everyone's packing heat. That's why there's private security. So that's just the way it is in Africa, especially South Africa. And it's terrible. But there's other stories in my family history where there have been Traceys in Africa who've been murdered by Africans. There was a woman who lived, I forget which country, it wasn't South Africa, but some boyfriend of a girl she had employed. So one of her maids, essentially, who, she gave her employment. And the boyfriend came in, he had a drug issue or whatever, and he said, hey, from now on, you shouldn't give the money to her. You should give the money straight to me. The same thing, just greed and insanity. Yeah. And my relative said, no, I'm not going to do that. You don't work for me. She works for me. I give it to her. And he takes out a knife and kills her. And it's like, so this stuff, it happens. And again, it's ugly as hell. But to think that these are all just individual acts and there's nothing larger to be taken from this, as if the crime rates in Africa are similar to the crime rates in Beverly Hills or Berlin. This is insane. There's a reason why these things are happening. And you cannot discard it. You cannot hide behind the excuse that bad things happen. These are individual events. There's nothing related, and there's nothing to be taken from this beyond condemning the individual who did the thing. That's just ignorance. And I'm not going to abide by that.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Another one, I thought, with your skill set, and everything you do, I mean, Would you be okay with sharing what you actually do besides AIU, or is that mainly what you do?
I would hope not. No, in fact, the people in my private life, I rarely, if ever, talk about anything. I talk about my videos. If anything, that's a catharsis where I can perform self-therapy on what I'm seeing in the world.
Yeah.
What else do I do? Well, I mean, the music videos was one aspect, but yeah, I love sports. I love culture. I love movies. Watch various shows on premium television. I go down rabbit holes on YouTube.
Yeah.
I work out all the time. Well, I used to go to the gym and run, but running is boring and the gyms are all closed. So I do like yoga and fitness and kettlebells and stuff like that to try to stay in shape. But I travel the world. I enjoy riding on electric scooters quite often. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to all things. I'm watching the Euro Cup right now. I guess the game's going to start in a few hours. You know, I'm basically an average guy, so don't be intimidated just because I am godlike in my talents. I mean, you know, I have a sex life. I enjoy sexuality. That's something fun. I'm doing a new video coming up on sex work and why it's illegal in America and how crazy that is. They arrested some prostitute and they're like all proud of themselves. Like, oh, this prostitute in Vegas tried to proposition some undercover cops, but we arrested her. So don't worry, guys. Everyone's safe. Just madness. So I go into that, and there's a whole realm. I play chess all the time. I'm trying to get my score up to new highs, and I'm pretty proud of the chess player that I've become. And I watch a lot of chess content too. Like I watch the grandmasters, and I love getting inside their brains and watching them be brilliant in real time.
Ooh,
it's kind of
dangerous place.
Oh yeah. I think I'll do some more videos on chess coming up.
But where I was going with that was with your ability, your creation ability, if you had, I almost know what the answer is going to be. I almost don't want to ask the question, but I'm going to. If you had continued further left, I mean, dude, you'd have like 5 million plus subscribers.
Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish.